New York Yankees fans are absolutely livid at these recent comments, and all of us should be upset as we are looking at free agency a whole lot differently now. And just to cap it off, the Yankees on the same day made a move that just about encapsulates everything that we just heard the team's owner say about the Yankees that no fan should be okay with whatsoever. We're going to break down all the comments by Hal Steinbrenner, also discussing a move that the Yankees made as well that really just caps off this whole day that has been absolute insanity for the Yankees. And we're going to waste no time jumping right into things, but real quick, if you're part of that 69.5% that's not subscribed to Yankees Digest, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single New York Yankees update, because we got videos coming out every single day regarding everything on free agency and all New York Yankees news in general. But let's jump into it, guys, because there's a lot to talk about, because, guys, recently, Hal Steinbrenner had to answer some questions regarding the Yankees. Now that the offseason is fully underway and that free agency is about to really start picking up, plus moves already sort of happening as well, seeing Josh Naylor re-sign in Seattle, seeing, Brandon Nimmo getting traded off the New York Mets for Marcus Semien. There has been moves. Stuff is going down, and Hal Steinbrenner had to answer some questions at a press conference discussing the New York Yankees and where the team was at. And frankly, just to go over something today that just really fits this whole bill, we know that Hal Steinbrenner is a lot cheaper than his father was. Now, because of how bad of an owner Hal Steinbrenner has been, there's a lot of revisionist history on his father, George Steinbrenner, who fans were not thrilled with like 90% of the time. But George Steinbrenner looks like the greatest owner of all time compared to Hal right here. Now, the Yankees, they made a move today which encapsulated everything that has been going on. As the Yankees signed this man right here, Yerry Rodriguez, to a contract where Rodriguez has been an interesting player throughout his career, having a WAR of -1 throughout his career and an 8.17 ERA. The man who's appeared in 30 MLB games has not shown that he is an MLB level player, despite having some years of service, mainly with Texas, but also playing very briefly with Toronto in 2024, before not being anywhere last season, where his stop in Toronto led to him having a 15.43 ERA in his 4 appearances. Now, the Yankees made this move, and it was mentioned by MLB Trade Rumors, who did say the Yankees have agreed to a minor league contract with right-handed reliever Yerry Rodriguez, as first indicated on the transaction log at MLB.com. It's a 2-year minor league pact. Agent Kelvin Nova tells MLB Trade Rumors that the deal went down, and Rodriguez underwent Tommy John surgery back in spring training, where he was a non-roster invitee with the Pirates. He's targeting a midseason return to the mound. So the Yankees just targeting then signing someone who has not shown anything at the MLB level and spent absolutely no money doing it, which is a huge relief to Hal, who was asked about the Yankees and the whole profit that they turn and how he wants to be under that $300 million threshold, which very few of us expect to actually happen, but does lead to some conversations. And, well, Hal Steinbrenner made it sound like the Yankees aren't turning a profit. As he said, I don't want to get into it, but to assume the Yankees make a profit is not a fair statement or an accurate statement. Everybody wants to talk about revenues. They need to talk about our expenses, including the $100 million expense to the city of New York that we have to pay every February 1st, including the COVID year. So it all starts to add up in a hurry. Well, you thought those comments were bad. He then said, would it be ideal if payroll went down? Of course, but does that mean it's going to happen? Of course not. We want to field a team we know can win a championship or can believe to win a championship. This man owns a billion-dollar organization. I'm not exaggerating. The Yankees are worth well over $1 billion. Hal Steinbrenner has over $1 billion. The man never had to work a day in his life because George Steinbrenner had a ton of money as well. Because of this, Hal, who never had to work and was never expected to become the owner of the Yankees, now sits here because of tragic situations and just goes out there and is like, well, I don't want to spend the money I didn't make. That's not fair. It's not fair to assume we turn a profit despite being the New York Yankees. America's most successful sports team in history, a sports team that is so old the organization has ties back to when the Wild West was around. That's how old the Yankees are. That's how wealthy the New York Yankees are. And I know the Steinbrenner family wasn't owning it back all the way when they were the Highlanders or anything. I know that. I'm not saying that I don't understand that. But what I'm saying is the Yankees were a team they are a team with 27 World Series championships, and George Steinbrenner bought them when they already had a ton of those. So, remember, everything wasn't always peachy with George, but with Hal, man, it is a different kind of beast. Now, shout out to the Captain's Blog on Twitter, one of the best Yankee accounts on the app, who did say Hal Steinbrenner just gave a masterclass in why the Yankees are an unserious organization. He claimed the team wasn't profitable, lamented about having to pay back interest on the government agency-issued bonds that were used to build a stadium he doesn't pay real estate taxes are, admitted the ideal scenario is cutting payroll instead of using the team's corporate welfare-fueled wealth to improve the team, and cited mental mistakes as a reason for replacing coaches, but not the manager who insisted all year that those mental mistakes were a gross exaggeration. Now look, a lot of people have marketed for the firing of the Yankees manager, Aaron Boone. People have asked Hal about it. Hal said that it was mental mistake stuff. Aaron Boone said the mental mistakes were being overblown. So doesn't this feel like, well, 1 + 1 is 2, so why hasn't Boone been fired yet? Are they just waiting until a little later on for no reason? No, they're not going to fire Aaron Boone. Hal Steinbrenner has to pay Aaron Boone next season regardless. So why would he fire him? That's money down the drain that Hal's not going to get rid of. He thinks Boone is good enough for the Yankees to win a World Series. And I'll admit, I'm inclined to agree. The Yankees did make the World Series with Boone. And it's not like Boone managed it terribly. He went out there and made oh, no, never mind. He put an injured Nestor Cortez in to close out a game instead of a red-hot Tim Hill who was ready to go in and pitch. But no, put in Nestor. Nestor just, gives up the walk-off. I really had to try to not curse right there. But I don't understand how he could have the gall to go out there and say this and not think that he's an absolute freaking lunatic. Because Hal Steinbrenner is nuts. Again, looking at what the Captain's Blog mentioned about this. To summarize, when you hear Hal Steinbrenner complain about how he has to pay the city $85 million per year, remember that is what he got in return. A city park was reclaimed. While the new stadium was being built, rent credits were extended on the old one. Various other construction-related credits as well. I'm going to make this bigger so you guys can see it a lot more clearer because this matters a lot. A triple tax-free interest rate thanks to city agency insurance, exemptions from paying property tax, and direct city capital investments for infrastructure projects such as the Metro North Station, which is right nearby, while to top it all off, city agency financing for other infrastructure such as parking garages. Now, as the Captain's Blog put it, imagine having the gall to cry poverty because you have to pay back the low-interest loan used to build a revenue-generating new stadium when the alternative would have been to pay a much higher interest rate on a non-municipal-backed loans in addition to property taxes that alone would be 50% higher than the interest payment. Want to know what all this means? A lot of money BS that if you don't work in government or if you don't really care because you're here to listen to me talk about baseball and not this, you kind of look past it. Want to know what it means to Hal Steinbrenner? I'm going to say a bunch of boring mumbo-jumbo, hope that nobody fact-checks me, and as long as my gamble that I don't get fact-checked is correct, everybody's going to think, oh, I see where Hal's coming from now. That's not true. Hal is putting all of these words together so you get confused, so you think, oh, okay, I get it now. Makes a little bit more sense. I still don't love the guy, but it is what it is, whatever. What Hal is doing here is trying to fool you into thinking that he is not making more money in 1 year than you, me, my mom who's in the other room, my brother who's in the other room, will ever all make combined in our entire lives. He is a liar. He is an ass. There is no way around these things. Yeah, he was willing to pay $750 million for Juan Soto. Why? Because he was embarrassed that the New York Mets were going to give him a black eye, and they did. And honestly, now, every time Hal opens his mouth, I find it hilarious that Juan Soto left for the Mets. I am a Yankee fan. I will always be a Yankee fan, but I will never be a Hal Steinbrenner supporter under any circumstances. Look, as Hal said, if there's a correlation between spending the most money and winning a championship, I still think it's a weak correlation sample size of the data. This is when Chris Kirshner asked him about his comments on how it's hard to keep up with the Dodgers, who spend endless money because they can and will. And as Hal said, but the Dodgers earned every bit of it. They struggled with injuries throughout the season, which I did talk about in that same quote, but they got healthy at the right time, the rotation got healthy, and when the rotation is healthy, they're tough to beat. They, quite frankly, played up to their potential. They really played up to their potential, especially those last 2 games. That has to happen. Your players have to play up to their potential when you're playing a team as good as the Blue Jays, and you're playing under that kind of pressure in the World Series. Hats off to them. It's not easy to do twice, and they did it in dramatic fashion this time. But again, we'll see what they do next year and how it pans out. There was nothing low about my payroll and the Mets payroll. Look where we ended up. Now, on top of that, he did talk about the Blue Jays as well, the series, and said, well, look, I think balance in life is everything. They slug the ball, too. It's not like just putting balls in play. They definitely slug the ball, hitting strikes hard, particularly in the air. Not that you're trying to hit it over the fence, but in the air. Statistically speaking, the results speak for themselves. You have a better chance of success when you do that. We tried to become more balanced, picking up guys like Jazz that can simply put the ball into play. So I need you to... I think you need that. You can't simply be a slugging home run team. They had a great year. I'm curious to see next year how well they do with that roster, assuming it stays mostly intact. But they're a great team. They definitely played better than us. They slugged better than us. They hit the ball better, and they put the ball in play better than us, and they pitched better than us. That's why they won. And, you know, he's not wrong. It is why they won. But also to say, well, yeah, we have guys like Jazz who put the ball in play. Y'all know, if you've been following this channel, that I love Jazz Chisholm Jr. That Jazz, the 242 batting average. Ooh. Ooh. You want to care? Hal, you want to show that you care? Do what your dad would have done. We need a guy to put the ball in play. Oh, he happens to be the Blue Jays shortstop and heart and soul of that team, or one of the heart and souls of that team. Let's go steal Bo Bichette just to kick them right in the groin. Because that is what that's what the Steinbrenner family does. Nope, not what Hal does. Hal says we picked up guys like Jazz Chisholm, who had a 242 batting average, and he puts the ball into play. And again, Jazz is great. I'm not arguing that Jazz isn't great. The man's an all-star. But it's just all this stuff that he's saying. The exaggeration to not make himself look like he is capping the team. He is. And he's completely right. The Mets, they have the payroll they have. They blew it. I'm sorry. Did we forget that they're the Mets and that the Mets don't apply, the rules don't apply because, again, they're the Mets? It's the same thing as the New York Jets. The Jets put Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Dalvin Cook at one point. I could go on and on and on and on. They signed Tyron Smith. They did a whole bunch of stuff. Want to know what the Jets did? They won, 5 games that year? It's hard to remember because I started blocking it out. I stopped watching. It was brutal to watch Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, that one. Just forget how to manage a clock with the Jets. It doesn't matter what happens. The Mets and the Jets are anomalies because no matter what they do, it's going to fail. The Yankees are an anomaly because no matter what they do, somehow things usually start to look good. Well, not as much anymore. And the Dodgers did win because of their payroll. Because they paid Freddie Freeman. And subsequently, they paid Shohei. They paid Yamamoto, the World Series MVP. More money than the Yankees did. Where Yamamoto would have went to the Yankees if they paid him more. Nope. Doesn't matter. The Sasaki thing is different. Sasaki was on a rookie deal. They're going to pay Amai. They're going to pay him. Look at Alex's video on that. They're gonna pay Munetaka Murakami. They are. We know that. And it is what it is. They might pay Kyle Tucker because they're willing to. When the Yankees are willing to do that, what happened? Yankees won. They're not willing to do the same. And I get it. I know the Dodgers have an impossible amount of money, but to say that the payroll doesn't matter, we all know it's BS. The Mets were good, and then their best pitcher got injured. Senga went down. Boo-hoo. They probably should have focused on their pitching more than they did. For some weird reason, they didn't, and that doesn't really make any sense to me, personally, as a baseball fan, watching the Mets not really address it and say, oh, we got Clay Holmes. Good. The Mets are stupid. David Stearns isn't a very good GM. So, that's that. At the end of the day, this is the longest video I've ever made on Yankees Digest, and it's because Hal Steinbrenner, well, frankly, had just one of the most moronic stream of answers I've ever seen anyone go after. I say this wholeheartedly believing it in my heart. James Dolan, the guy who owns the Knicks, is honestly 5 times better at being an owner today than Hal Steinbrenner is. I'm not kidding. Hal Steinbrenner is an idiot. Like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Have a great day. I think they're still going to sign one of Bellinger or Tucker. It's still, they're willing to spend money, but Hal's got to shut up.